All right. I'd like to call to order Citizens Planning Commission meeting, regular meeting, Monday, December 8th, 2025 at 7 o'clock p.m. Roll call, please.
Yes, McDonough. Here. Williamson.
Here.
Madison excused. Duhamel.
Here.
White.
Here.
Chairman Schwartz.
Here. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For the approval of the regular agenda, there is a need to amend. Mr. Vanasacker?
Yes, so apologize for the error, but we listed the two commission action cases under presentations and public hearings. So a motion would be in order to amend the agenda to adjust and move those two items into commission action. Two items, 5612 and 5613.
Have a motion?
Yeah, so a motion to move 5612 and 5613 to the action, commissioner action.
Have a motion by Commissioner McDonough
Second.
and a support by Duhamel. Roll call, please.
Yes, McDonough.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Duhamel.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Chairman Schwartz.
Yes. And can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Commissioner Duhamel. Do I have a second? By Commissioner McDonough. Roll call, please.
Yes, McDonough.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Duhamel.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Chairman Schwartz.
Yes, motion passes. All right, presentations, communications, public hearing, capital improvement program for fiscal year 26-27 overview.
Yeah,
Mr. Vanasacker.
absolutely. I just want to begin with a word of thanks to all who have contributed to the CIP process. A lot of the department directors and heads are in the audience tonight, along with our administrative staff in the Economic Community Development Department. Just want to thank them for the work to this point. If I named everyone, we'd be here probably until 9:30, so I'm not going to do that. But they all do deserve acknowledgement this evening. So this is not an easy process, but when we start to send the messages out each July, no one ever complains. It's a worthwhile endeavor for the city, mapping out the future, and in particular the 6 years beyond and even further out than that. So extremely thankful for all the work. The agenda for tonight's presentation is fairly straightforward. I will cover the majority of the department's slides, and then I will welcome Director of Utilities Barry Leroy and Director of Engineering and Public Services Patrick Lewis to the mic to chat through some of the additional details on their submittals this year. And then from there, we'll wrap up with some Q&A and review the next steps in the process, because this is the first that you are seeing this. It's also the first time that several members of our city council are seeing these items for the CIP budget for this year. So we'll get into that a little bit. We'll start tonight by getting a little bit into the who, what, when, and why of CIP as a refresher. So each year the state of Michigan requires that municipalities prepare a 6-year plan for public assets, linking long-term planning to budgets and prioritizing needed enhancements. This is mandated by the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act and includes 4 key elements, and these are key to any solid CIP plan. The first is prioritization, financial responsibility, communication, which I appreciate our partners at Impact here in the office that are here tonight to stream this on YouTube and on cable. For us and communicating that to the public. And then also and ultimately sustainability, selecting projects that have the ability to sustain not only election cycles, but just, decades of time. So very, very excited for this evening. Key rule of thumb for CIP projects and the rule of thumb that we tend to use is any project greater than $10,000 with a longer than 5-year lifespan. So those are the projects that are most often included in CIP. Projects that are smaller than that are traditionally within department budgets and planned for separately. City of Monroe has several factors that we pull into consideration during this process. I do have them on the screen, and we'll get into these all in additional detail. But I would be remiss to not mention the kind of guiding light, if you will, for a lot of these projects, which are the council goals and objectives, which are prepared every 2 years. Their session is actually coming up here shortly in the early part of 2026 for that. And then in between those cycles, so on an annual basis, council's meeting. They met in February this past year to reaffirm these goals and objectives. So I just have them listed on the screen as those are some of the items that certainly guide the departments as we look to submit projects. Starting with financial factors, CIP obviously is a planning exercise first and foremost, but capital expenditure is at its core and allows for the planning to take place and allows for forecasting to take place. So 3 key elements are listed above. Obviously, the decommissioning of the DTE coal burner plant and subsequent tax tribunal settlement levies, the existing ones that we have, any need that we would see where if we have projects that are starting to pile up in a certain category, maybe it's an indicating factor that the city needs to pursue additional funding. And then lastly, grant funding opportunities and sources of funding outside of the city of Monroe and outside of the building that are able to be obtained. And for some of these larger projects, you'll note that we do call out grant funding specifically for some of these projects included. Next, quality of life. So we've provided a great deal of focus on park and trail improvements, which has been and will continue to be reflected in our CIP submittals. Additionally, public art initiatives, infrastructure for events that bring people into our community and then allow residents to have pride in their community. Historic assets, the River Raisin, safety and access to increase walkability, and traffic calming improvements are all quality of life amenities that we look at when facilitating the CIP. Operational factors, we look at efficiency and effectiveness, how we can ever strive to improve the customer experience. What are the costs of operation, and are there other funding alternatives and investments in technology where we can implement to stabilize costs whenever possible? Infrastructure Asset Management Program, most commonly referred to as an AMP, is mandated for our water and sewer system, and regulation exists surrounding our street system as well, which you'll see often goes hand in hand, and I'm sure Directors Leroy and Lewis will mention tonight how a number of their projects go hand in hand. Additionally, we evaluate conditions of sidewalks each year. We draw reference to recommendations in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and the Bicycle and Pedestrian Trails Plan as advised by the Bicycle and Pedestrian Trails Committee. Finally, we use the AMP to help guide project prioritization and coordination amongst all departments. And then lastly, inventory of equipment and estimated maintenance schedules. CIP is such a valuable tool for that. When we can anticipate maintenance issues and when they would arise, if we can begin planning for that years in advance, it greatly reduces the cost and impact that is on the city. Regulatory factors. As mentioned a bit previously, the projects that are submitted are influenced heavily by regulatory factors, which we will get into with a few of the proposed projects a little bit more in detail with the slides. And then technology factors, and this is lastly, advancements in technology and sunsets to products and servicing of said products are a large factor in CIP. We will touch on a few of these particulars as well during the information technology section of the slide. So by the numbers, this is the total projected breakdown of the fiscal year 2026 and 2027 capital improvements program. A majority of funds are determined each year by forecasted allocations and utility rates. However, the general fund varies annually, and the other financing section is dependent on obtaining non-city streams of revenue. And most of the projects that are listed under other financing are intended to pursue grant funding or outside sources. And just a note at the bottom, these numbers are subject to change as this proposal moves its way through the CIP process ahead of final approval in February. I'm going to skip through the next couple of slides rather quickly, as we're all, I'm sure, fairly well aware of a lot of the city-owned facilities, and then also too, I'm sure that Director Lewis will get into a little bit more on the conditions of street funding and road funding and the breakdowns there, and then also the challenges that we are facing from a road funding standpoint. This slide covers the future capital improvement appropriations, and I included this slide to show you the details on what's proposed beyond this year. As you can see, there are a number of projects proposed in the next 6 years. You'll see that for instance, the number for 2028, 2029 is rather large. But a lot of those projects have been and will continue to be in the CIP on previous fiscal years moving throughout the year allocations. And I should say too, the full breakdown of these, I didn't want to include the future project slides, but the full breakdown of these is available and it will be sent to you in spreadsheet format. A few current projects that are not included, and I have a few more to add based on this, but the former Lazy Boy headquarters redevelopment project, which continues to move forward with additional plans for development in the works, both on the residential and retail side of things. The Loop Greenway Trail will be heading out for bid here shortly, and we're hoping to get that started here in 2026, a little bit later on in the fall. 13 West Front Street, we are preparing the building for sale. The DDA has invested a substantial portion of their budget into that space, and they will be ready to have it and are entertaining offers for the building as well. And a few additional that I neglected to call on this slide are the obviously the St. Mary Academy building, which is a large project in the works right now. I didn't necessarily include it because it is a private development project, but there will and potentially be some city elements to that in some of the open public spaces that are being proposed. So there may be some projects in the future looking at 27, 28, and 28, 29 CIP year for that project. And then also the Center 1.0. And I say 1.0 because we do call out 2.0 in this project. But the Center 1.0 is well underway and slated for completion early in 2026. So we did not include anything pertaining to that project, although it is well underway. And now let's dive into the department submittals. As a reminder, projects were submitted by various department heads from August 1st through November 1st. And if you're myself, sometimes after that as well. But the projects, they were reviewed by the planning division for completion, and department heads met with the city manager and assistant managers to discuss project particulars ahead of bringing the projects to you. So following the department head meetings, projects were reviewed in detail and weighed amongst the factors provided. The ones you have before you are the projects that emerged as strong candidates given funding allotted for consideration. And without further ado, we will start with the Economic and Community Development Department and the Building Division. So two projects being submitted from the Building Division this year are both related to the one of our city-owned facilities, the Sawyer House. The house is in desperate need of masonry repairs, and the stairs are in a state of need of repair. So city administration have begun conversations with the nonprofit about sustainability of the home long term, and looking at ways that we can start preparing for some of these larger capital expenditures. But the two that emerged as most urgent needs would be ramp replacement at the Sawyer House, along with some masonry repairs to the side. So some tuck pointing, masonry repairs, as some of those elements of the facade are starting to fall off. So there have been a few projects in the past few years, but these are some larger ones that we wanted to include in the CIP for this year. That was it for the Building Division. So the next is the Department of Clerk Treasurer. And I know Clerk Treasurer Lavoie is here this evening. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie submitted one item this year for consideration, and that's $119,000 to upgrade voter assist terminals and tabulators. And there are several reasons for this. The most important reason being that the state of Michigan is going to require municipalities that host elections to upgrade their equipment by 2029. So this is in an effort to get it ahead of those enhancements. These machines would be in compliance with the intended upgrades that are required for 2029. And I'm sure that Clerk Treasurer Lavoie will be happy to answer any questions if there are any from the Planning Commission. Getting back into the rest of the Economic and Community Development Department, we will start with the Economic Development Division and in particular on this one, the Downtown Development Authority. And one of the asks that we will have is for an upgrade to the downtown Monroe brick kiosk. There are a number of people who have looked to hang posters and things in the existing brick section, and we are looking to upgrade to an interchangeable electronic kiosk. So very easy to update, also interactive for folks that are visiting. The company that we received a quote from, they installed one at the River Raisin National Battlefield Park, where you can go and interact with it currently. But this would be a first, and potentially looking at some other locations in the future. But this would be an initial one to install downtown Monroe. Next, we have a second project in collaboration with the DDA. Would be $200,000 for the installation of a new public parking lot behind 201 West Front Street, more commonly referred to as the Whistle Stop Building. This is being proposed as a 50-50 split between the DDA and the city's general fund. As you may know, City Council recently approved a lease-to-own proposal from Rose Millette, Barcelona Bakery, for future occupancy of the space. And Rose Millette, we've had several conversations with them. They are willing to forego private parking in the benefit of the public good, and having this parking lot be available to the public, and for those that are looking to attend events downtown, shop downtown, etc. So the next project stems actually from an opportunity that the city has and that we were made aware of by the Economic Development Administration to pursue some disaster relief funding. To create a revolving loan fund aimed at property owners within the DDA district to be provided with low interest gap financing to complete building enhancements projects that would enhance the speed to market of commercial occupants to space. So one of the things we hear all the time, one of the biggest prohibitive factors to businesses moving downtown is the cost of buildings, the cost of updating buildings. We are a historic downtown. And so having some of those factors that play in to it, several buildings we are looking to upgrade, and we've had property owners that have reached out to us seeking funds to do so. And when they've pursued traditional lending, there's been a gap that's existed. So the intent for this fund would be to serve as that gap financing for property owners with the main objective of getting new commercial occupants downtown. In a similar vein to looking at ways that we can be an active player in economic development is strategic property acquisition. From time to time, the opportunity to obtain properties called out in the listed plans arises, and we need to be in position to submit offers in a rather quickly time frame. We have proposed setting aside an annual amount in accordance with available funds to target specific properties. You'll recall this has been a project that has been in several previous iterations of the capital improvements program. And this year we're proposing $100,000 from the general fund to add to this fund. And lastly, from the Economic Development Division, a proposed $50,000 set aside from the Roads and Trails millage to explore the feasibility of extending the Riverwalk on the north side of the river from St. Mary's Park to the parking lot located at 30 East Elm Avenue. So one of the things we hear a lot is that, people don't necessarily feel safe crossing Monroe Street, particularly at that intersection. And having access to additional public parking that people don't even necessarily realize sometimes is there. But then also including an additional amenity for folks to be able to utilize the river as the true asset that it is. And so we feel that this project would kill two of those birds with one stone, and create some additional connectivity off street to increase pedestrian safety in the corridor. Now shifting focus to the planning division, proposed $25,000 toward the city's public art initiative. If you'll recall, we've started doing annual installments toward public art in each of the past two CIP plans. We've installed murals both affixed to buildings and on crosswalks, and are looking to put funds this year toward a piece of sculpture art as part of the next project that'll be coming up on the list, but specifically a piece of sculpture art within the Orchard East neighborhood. That is a key objective that came out of the Orchard East master plan, was identification for the neighborhood, taking pride in the history of the neighborhood and paying homage to that. So those are by no means final sketches of what would be a potential for it, but just kind of getting the creative juices flowing on that potential project. So I will note too that over the past several years, when we've included public art in the CIP, we've been able to attract additional grant funds and investment through this initiative as well. So although the $25,000 may seem like a small amount when you're talking about the cost of going after art, the fact that the city is showing its investment in public art is inspiring to a lot of other funding partners. So I just wanted to mention that. And ultimately this year we were able to receive an additional $40,000 to put toward public art for the crosswalk installations as a result of what was included in CIP. So moving on to the project that is also in the Orchard East neighborhood, is the Boxing Arts and Cultural Center at the ALCC, which is now starting to kind of informally be referred to as the Center 2.0 plan. And it's really the plan that is for the remaining space within that block that is either proposed to be owned by the city of Monroe or is actively owned by the city of Monroe. And so we did include this last year. And we included it as a $2.1 million ask, and we, highlighted it as a priority, said we were going to pursue grant funding. We have received a $250,000 grant to start this project. And that's for schematic design, and it was awarded by the Ralph Wilson Foundation's Community Hub Grant Program. So this is the first grant, but we are going to continue to include this until the project is fully funded. And we are very excited to kick this project off. We had RFPs out for a contractor to work with us and guide us through this process. Those RFPs came back to us on Thursday of last week, and we are meeting tomorrow with a small committee that is looking and reviewing the proposals, and hopefully we'll be able to start that project in the first quarter of the calendar year or our third quarter. Next is a project that's in partnership, in partnership with the communications department, and it's an update to the city's wayfinding signage. The goal will be to bring outdated signage into alignment with the updated parks and gateway signage that should be going in the early part of 2026. We're proposing to fund over the course of 2 years through the Major Street Fund, and looking at some of those key areas and doing a full analysis of where are these signs located currently, doing a full inventory, and seeing if we're missing locations or if there's anything that we need to do to pursue additional upgrades to those. So bringing into alignment with the updated city branding, just really, we talk about this all the time, but it's the small things like coordinating colors and branding and signage that go such a long way toward the community and having pride in the community. The next project is the funding of construction design documents for the Orchard Greenway Trail. This project has already been initiated through the 25-26 fiscal year, thanks to a regional planning grant provided by SEMCOG of $40,000, which was matched locally by the $10,000 from the city. The total estimated project cost will be in the area of $2.5 million and will be a multi-year project involving property acquisition and construction for this project. So we've initiated that kind of schematic design process, and we should be receiving renderings here before the end of the year on what a proposed trail could look like. But then comes the heavy lift of getting the full construction documents ready for bid. So that is a project that we are proposing for the 26-27 fiscal year to start those documents. Now kicking off the Parks and Recreation Division with the number one priority project for the department, which is phase 2 of the St. Mary's Park project. Planning to use the funding breakdown shown to complete phase 2 of the project, which will provide updated court surfaces, additional accessible trailways and viewing terraces, and an updated playscape facility to St. Mary's Park. So this will go hand in hand and in tandem with the parking lot upgrade that was just completed. You'll see landscaping is starting to go in if it's not already completed at the park. And then there will also be some additional furniture that's included in some of those terraces and things like that. But that's all phase 1, and this would be phase 2 of the project. So we are in the final stages of waiting to hear back on a $400,000 grant from the DNR that would go a long way toward achieving the end goal of that 1.6 million for the project. So we would be looking to fund the rest of that through the remaining phase 1 and 2 grant that we received from the MEDC, and then also just over $1 million from the general fund and $200,000 from the trails and roads and trails millage, I should say. A few additional park projects to highlight include an annual allocation to create an accessible pathway to the nature trails in Munson Park and fund a much needed light repair to our Munson Park ball fields and diamonds. But one of the other critical projects that has been a project that's been submitted for CIP, but unfortunately the funding was not there in years prior, was to repair and do a full replacement of the Munson Park tennis courts. As you can see from the one picture there, I was out there taking probably 8 or 9 photos just showing all of the cracks that exist. In about 2016, I'm sure people can correct me if I'm wrong, there was a fix that was kind of made to do almost like a temporary patching of the court that now is starting to show its age, and it's going to warrant a full repair of that court. So that's a $220,000 ask as part of the CIP. But it's one of those critical needs that were identified. And then to close out for the Economic and Community Development Department, a couple of smaller projects. The first is an annual $10,000 set aside for parks and sidewalk maintenance. So last year, there was a section in Soldiers and Sailors Park that we were able to utilize some of these funds for after it was funded in the previous CIP year. And every once in a while, there are these smaller little sidewalk sections that start to deteriorate. So, or may not even exist yet, but may represent a need and warrant a need for some of those things. And then ultimately and finally, the purchase of a hydraulic dump trailer, which is $15,000. And that's all part of our initiative to update or introduce a new piece of equipment each year to our Parks and Recreation Division. So that closes out the Economic and Community Development Department, and we will move into the Information Technology Division. And the Priority 1 project is a network server replacement. Estimated replacement of the network servers is coming actually in this coming fiscal year. This was a project that's been set aside for a number of years in CIP. And we are planning the last $25,000 installment in the 26-27 fiscal year. to produce the fully funded $100,000 project for network server replacement. Priority 2 is backup array replacement. So the existing system was purchased in 2017 as a recertified device, and the third-party support for the device is slated to come to an end here shortly. So this is one, when we talked about the sunsetting of certain network products and information technology, this is one that rose to the top in priority because of that. Priority 3, Microsoft Office upgrade. That's $50,000, and this is also because of a sunset in the current version of Microsoft Office the city is using. So the current subscription is facing end of support in October of 2026, and there's a full breakdown of individuals and departments and what everyone will need out of the next Microsoft Office package that we're proposing to fund with $50,000 from the IT fund. Priority 4, upgrade to BSNA Cloud. BSNA is the, I'll call it a customer service management tool that the city uses. It's also our record keeping and where we're able to store data. It's something that there are multiple people in multiple departments that use daily and sometimes for the entire portion of the day. And so the total project cost is projected at $150,000. This would be an initial set aside for funds to transfer to the cloud version of BSNA. Right now, we are on the desktop version of BSNA. And the change in software from Microsoft could expedite that timeline. There's an SEQ that Microsoft is looking to sunset that may expedite the time that we need to get onto the new system. And then priority 5 is the network upgrade, $25,000. The total project cost is $200,000, and we're starting that set aside for the 2033-2034 fiscal year. Moving on to the public safety department and starting with fire, we are proposing $22,170, which we will be striving to obtain via grant funding for Monroe Heart Savers AED equipment. And this would be to install AEDs at a number of city-owned facilities and parks potentially throughout the community. So that way, if there's ever an accident, people have access to this life-saving equipment. And then also respiratory protection overhaul, ops $15,000 from the general fund. And that's really aimed at just providing our firefighters with an additional level of security as they're going on and navigating these wild situations that unfortunately come up in our community. Moving on to police, UTM reality-based training equipment, $11,000 from the general fund. This is part of, and I'm sure Director Tolstad can speak to this too, but this is part of a huge initiative, and we're so thankful that there is new technology that's emerging that allows for critical training to take place without having to be put into harm's way. And so that would be a huge piece of that pie for our police officers. And then also $49,000 for the expansion of the current drone program and being able to send drones into buildings instead of people at the start. To kind of do investigation and clearings and make sure that there are no hazards in the building before law enforcement officials would enter a location. And then finally, an enclosed trailer, which, a lot of times there are trainings that have to take place outside, and there's a lot of equipment that has to be moved for these training sessions to take place. So we're proposing $10,100 out of the general fund for that as well. And I'm sure you all are probably sick of hearing me talk at this point. So we're going to move on to wastewater and water departments, and I'm going to welcome Director of Utilities, Barry Leroy, to present on the wastewater and water projects.
All right. Good evening, members of the Citizen Planning Commission and Mayor Council. For water and wastewater, I'm going to touch on wastewater first. We have 3 projects, and then water, we have 16 projects total. Next slide. As far as first ranked project for wastewater, we have the sanitary sewer replacement rehabilitation. A lot of these projects are coordinated with road projects, but one of them, the Borges one, is coordinated with the St. Mary's Phase 2 project that was just talked about. It's also tied in with another grant to remove one of the dams, dam number 4, and put a pump station in there. So a lot of these projects will extend the service life of these sewers. They go back to 1905, and it improves the system capacity. Next slide. Second ranked project is what's called our backup level controller system at our settled waste system at the wastewater plant. This is a well that takes it moves from one treatment process to the next, and it has a system for controlling the level of fluid in there. And when that goes down, then it kind of gets a little chaotic in emergencies. So we're proposing to have a backup controller system ready and available. That request is $100,000, and it'll help us with our maintaining operation. Next slide. Third ranked project is our wastewater lab upgrades. It's kind of broken into 3 phases, excuse me. The $195,000 is broke down. We have an autoclave we have to replace that's used for sterilizing all the glassware that we use every day. And we have some really antiquated cabinets and countertops that we'd like to replace, and then do construct a small partition, I should say, to do more administrative work for our staff. And then the last phase is putting in a mini split to balance the heating and cooling in that area. Next slide. Okay, now moving over to the water division, water distribution division. The first project is our water distribution replacement, and there's 5 different projects located in there, about 0.66 miles, about 1.329 million. The oldest is 1912. These are, again, coordinated with road projects, and the main break metrics are listed there. But those records only go back to like 1983, so we know they're probably worse than that. There is 17 lead and galvanized lines that will replace in those areas. The Telegraph Road project, I believe they're supposed to be paving that next year, so we'd like to get that replaced before that. We've had several main breaks in that area. Next slide. Should go. Oh, there we go. Yep. The second ranked water distribution division project is the meter shop improvements. It's broken into 2 different phases. The roof replacements for the meter shop and the equipment building are flat roofs. They have about a 20-year life. We're starting to have some leaks, and we'd like to replace those. That was constructed in the 2006 edition in rehab at that facility. And the other improvements are geared towards this inventory barn. We got about $2 million of inventory in there, so we'd like to maintain it. It definitely needs some rehab on the exterior, and some concrete floor repairs and drainage. Next slide. The third ranked project is replacing a piece of equipment. It's a trailer mounted Vactor. On the left, you can see the existing equipment that was purchased in 2006. It has about a 15-year service life. So we're a little behind, but we've had a lot of repairs made to this. They don't make parts for it anymore. So every time we do fix it, it breaks down again. So we'd like to replace it with a newer trailer mounted unit. Okay, moving over to the water filtration division. The first ranked project is $40,000 request for our microcystin testing equipment. Our vendor will not support. They're going to sunset the current model we have, and they won't support the software anymore and the equipment. This does break down quite a bit, so we have to replace the equipment. This is a requirement for us to do testing. We do testing through the state requires us to provide samples for testing for them to do, as well as us. So we have to maintain our equipment for in-house testing to complete that task. Next, thank you. The next project is it's a bigger one. It's PFAS treatment improvements. It's a multi-year funded project. The request is for $90,000, and it'll fund a development of a project plan for a drinking water revolving fund loan, low interest loan, and it'll perform what's called rapid small scale column testing. This will help us with determining what kind of media is going to be the best scenario for our water quality for the ultimate project. And so the funding is broke down where we participated in a PFAS settlement, 4 different settlements. We're expecting to get about 3.9 million, and the balance would come from a drinking water revolving fund loan. In 2029, it's currently 2029. It might be extended to 2031. There'll be changes to the regulatory limits, which the state of Michigan will have to observe and which will reflect us. So we have to have the technology in place to be able to remove PFAS from potable water. This will also benefit by removing toxins. It can help with that, as well as some other new upcoming regulations will be on microplastics and pharmaceutical contaminant removal. So this will help us with that as well. Next slide. The next rank project is a $40,000 request for our 1924 underground reservoir crack repair. We're required every 5 years to take this out of service, inspect it. Any new cracks, we are required to inject and make water tight. So this is a standard thing we do every 5 years. We have an east and west reservoir. The other one's under the tennis courts in that photo. So this would just address the requirement of taking it out of service every 5 years, this project. The next rank project is our clarifier rehabilitation for all the clarifiers. It's a multi-year funded project. It includes painting, sandblasting of the troughs, and under the water there's a lot of metal that gets exposed to different chemicals and the different water quality. So we're planning to make some repairs to that. The gear mechanisms, bearings, all that stuff will be done with these projects. This is like the second portion of treatment at the plant, which covers all the different listed elements there: the clarification, flocculation, sedimentation process at the plant. Next slide. Fifth rank project is a security system upgrade. The water plant is required to have security system measures in place, which come in a variety of ways. We have door fobs, perimeter beams, cameras, things like that. This project is geared towards replacing some old analog cameras and upgrading the security system software just to maintain the overall system. The sixth rank project is our water treatment plant telemetry radios. The satellite facilities within the water system are operated through a licensed radio system, and that provides us information as well as allowing us to control things. We can get tank elevations, system pressures, control pumps, closed valves, things like that. So these last about every 15 years, and the technology starts to sunset, so we need to replace some of this, and that's what this project's geared towards. Seventh rank project is a pump motor drive rehabilitation project. It's a multi-year funded project. The request is to help contribute funds to continue replacing. We have to pull these pumps out of and take them out of service and pull them and inspect them, have them evaluated. It literally can take over a year to get these back from the vendor and back and installed. So it takes a long time to complete this process, along with a lot of funds. So, but maintaining the facility's integrity to transfer water is paramount. So this is geared towards the high service pumps at the water plant. The next rank project is our main power system rehabilitation and replacement at the water plant. It's a multi-year funded project, and it's geared towards addressing system maintenance and repairs and replacements of breakers, transformers, and the switchgear of the main power that's coming into the plant. So this will be seed money towards starting that process. And the last ranked project in the filtration division is our filter rehabilitation. For all the filters, there's 12 of them. There's different years that they were all built. 1924 with the original plant, 1948 and 72. This is a multi-year funded project that will address concrete work on the outside, roofs, some regulatory improvements that were outlined in a study that we had to complete, and media replacement. Now moving over to the raw water partnership. The first rank project is a roof replacement. This $25,000 request will be added to last year's request to do one large project to replace these roof system that lasts about 15 years. It's a flat, these are all flat roofs. So this would just be replacing the roof systems that are there to maintain system reliability, avoid leaks on the equipment and things. The funding is per our agreement with Frenchtown. It's based on capacity. It's about 69% is city and the balance is with Frenchtown. Next slide. The second ranked project is the pump rehab motor and drive for these low service pumps. These draw water from the 4 onshore wet wells and pump it to both the city water plant and Frenchtown's water plant. It's a multi-year funded project, and some of these part components are 30 to 80 years old. So rehabilitating these every 20 to 30 years are mandatory. And the whole goal is to maintain the integrity of the facility, and the costs are still based on ownership percentage. Third ranked project is replacing our chemical feed line. There's 2 intakes. There's a 42 and a 30. Inside those, there's a 2-inch line that runs all the way out to the intake structures, 6,000 feet offshore, and the other one's about 2,000 feet. These need to be replaced every 20 years or so. These feed chemicals to help remove invasive species that build up and can clog our intakes. We experienced that in 1989, in which we had no water coming in. So this is mandatory to help us with maintaining water coming into these facilities. Cost is the same by percentage for the city and Frenchtown. And the last ranked project is the addition of the raw water pump. This is a multi-year funded project. You've probably seen this on here before. The whole goal of this project is to add a second large pump that would be in the newer facility, the newer portion of the facility. There's 4 wet wells. We have pumps in 3 of them. This would be put into the last one, and it would help contribute to maintaining our firm capacity of 18 million gallons a day. So, and that is it. Yep.
I'll welcome up Director of Engineering and Public Services, Patrick Lewis.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners and City Council members and others in the audience. Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services. Okay, I'm going to try to go as fast as Barry did, but I've got a few more projects on here. So I'm not going to read everything on the slide here, but this is kind of the summary of where we're at as far as what projects constitute the Engineering Department CIP. We break ours into streets and other infrastructure, largely because the streets are funded through one basic pot of money or multiple pots of money, and infrastructure can come from a variety of sources. So we do have 10 different streets funded this year, about $3.9 million for this year's CIP. 8 of those are what I'd call bona fide streets, and 2 of them are either like one's the design for Greenwood and one is the mast arm upgrade project. So you've heard the spiel before. Those of you that have been around, the way we look at streets is that the the superintendent of public services, the assistant city engineer, and I drive every block of street every year in August and September. We give it a subjective rating, 0 through 10 on the street surface, 0 through 4 on the curb conditions, add a point for a major street, and then we combine those into similar blocks. And that's how we start to look at the list. We start to sort those when they get to about a 7 rating. We start to consider those for funding. And there's a variety of factors why they rise to the top. It's not always going to be the largest number, but we'll get into that in a minute. Some of the other things we look at too, which are not too surprising, it's not always worst first. Sometimes Mr. Leroy and I have been kind of the two-headed monster here at the city for the last 20 years. I'll look at a street project first, and then I'll turn to him and say, what utility needs do you have? And some years I have more needs than he does. Some years it's the reverse. So we try to make those clocks chime together so that we're We're working on my worst streets and his worst water mains, and I'll give you a couple examples as we go along of where I was the tail wagging the dog or he was the dog wagging the tail. Total mileage we've got on this year's list is a little over 1.5, which doesn't seem like a lot on an 83-mile system, but we are making pretty strong headway because since we've had the street millage, most of those have been full rebuilds. And so those are concrete rebuilds that are 30 to 40-year lifespans, so we actually are getting close to being on schedule for what we should. I should back up a little bit on the criteria thing too, because one of the other sources of funding that we work around are our federal funds. The city of Monroe being part of a urban area of greater than 50,000 population gets sort of an entitlement of surface transportation funds. And so we can spend those every year. And it's sort of an agreement with the county where we split those funds in proportion to population and miles of road. So this year we'll stand to get about $300,000 in federal spending authority, and we can pool those funds from year to year. We can't push them forward. We can't stockpile those for future use, but we can bring them forward. So we'll talk about that in a couple of the project slides. The other infrastructure, I've got 9 projects listed down there. I know we had submitted a few others that didn't make the cut this year, but we are, I believe, going to talk about those. Mr. Vanasacker did edit the slides here, so I think we do have...
Oh, I did. I pulled.
You pulled the ones that are not? Okay. Well, then we won't talk about those. Okay, so I've kind of already gone over what's on this slide here as far as some things to consider. We usually start to look at those streets when they hit a 7.0, but then at that point, we look at those other sort of subjective factors. We prepare a map and a full report every year. Those are available on the city's webpage, so you can look at every block of street, what it's rated, and any of the other details that go along with that. Sort the federal aid projects separately because those are the ones we can use federal funds, and that's kind of I'll call them the super majors, things like Elm, Dixie, 3rd Street, Winchester Street. We have majors that aren't federally eligible. Those would be things like Cass and Harrison that are major streets, but they're not, they don't fit the federal definition of what's eligible. And as we mentioned, we have to line those up by category as well as line those up with water and wastewater needs. Starting with 2024, so starting with last year, we did this as a more or less firm policy. Again, complementing the wastewater needs is we've been starting to add storm sewers or at least 6-inch curb header tiles on every street that we're resurfacing. And a lot of that is because we're finding that we still have a lot of sump pumps connected to the sanitary sewers, especially on streets where there was never storm sewer built. That roadway might drain to either end, to a cross street, and so there was never a storm sewer in the mid-block sections. So people just kind of put their sump pump where the only place they have a pipe. So we are starting to include those on street projects, and that's another reason our mileage is slowing down a little bit because the cost for those storm sewers are going against the street construction as well. One thing, if you want to back up for one point I wanted to make as far as the not always worst first on there, we have a little bit of geographic balance. Now, we don't say we're going to pick a project in every precinct. We don't do it that cleanly, but there are some times where we say we just can't do any more work in this neighborhood because nobody has any place to park during construction. A good example of that was in 2022 and 23. We did a lot of work in the St. Mary's Garden subdivision. Lavender, Rosler, Calgary, John L. Those were all under construction at one time. So we delayed the Rosler Street block that we did last year by a year because we just wanted to spare that neighborhood the angst. We did the same thing with what'll be the first project this year with Lavender Street. We had kind of done things in sequence, so we weren't tearing too much up. But the other thing that we do look at as well is concrete versus asphalt. And I don't want to belabor the discussion too much with how we select our surface material, but we do have to start to look at our projects with an eye to how we're going to bid these and how we're going to get the most efficient price. So if we have a year where we only have one asphalt street, it might make sense to delay that another year to where we can package it with 3 or 4 others to get a better price from a contractor. And so that starts to come into play as well. So now we can go on. Thanks, Matt. Okay, so I'm going to blow down in order here which ones we have. Our first priority that I had set was Lavender Street reconstruction. I made it our first priority because we had delayed it 1 year from where it should have been, just because we were working on Rosler Street last year, 1 block over. This is an asphalt road done in 1996 last. The curbs were in somewhat decent shape, but once we started costing it out, we realized it was going to cost more money to try to save some of the curbs and work around them than to just tear it all out. So this will be a full curb replacement project, and we're going to do this in 8-inch concrete. We do have a new storm sewer down the middle of the road because there is none, and this is in that neighborhood that we do have quite a few sump pumps connected to the sanitary. So that deals with Barry's corrective action plan, which requires us to remove those clear water discharges. So that's a focus area of what they call the CAP plan. So that's pretty much it on this one. We're replacing the water main in this location as well, so we're going to combine that in one bid package with water mains and streets here. So you can go on to the next one. Navarre Street is our second priority, and we did hold this one a year, and part of that is because we are looking at this year's federal project in 2026, which we've already allocated the funds last year, is for the Jones Avenue reconstruction and realignment project. So I'll talk about that even though it's not in this year's CIP, but we got a $646,000 TAP grant to add bike lanes and sidewalks on that, and that actually covered the cost of the curbs as well. So because the Jones Avenue project will realign that so that La Pleasance coming from the south will automatically curve into Jones and the north leg will be kind of teed off, that will keep truck traffic from going all the way into town. Because of that realignment, Navarre Street's going to be affected by that a little bit. So we held Navarre until this year, even though it would have made the cut last year. So this request is $540,000 from the Municipal Street Fund, and this is a concrete roadway. It will be replaced in concrete. We are replacing the water main in this location as well. Fortunately, we have a storm sewer already here, so we just need to put the leads into the adjacent homes so we have those available. The trick here is going to be working around the sidewalks. We have a very narrow right-of-way, so that sidewalk is right at the back of curb. And when built, those ramps going down to the driveways and the driveways themselves didn't always meet the ADA cross slope. So we're trying to focus on putting one accessible path down there. It might involve crossing the road a couple of times where we don't have as many driveways. So this is a little bit of a design challenge, but we are looking to do this year. If for some reason the Jones Avenue project bids this year but won't be done until 2027, we will probably also delay this, but we want to fund it for this year and get it designed. So we are replacing the water main in this location also. So you can go on to the next one. Our third priority project where we are not replacing the water main because that was done in the 90s is Michigan Avenue from Mason Run Drain to Greenwood. It's another project which was an asphalt surface. We looked at this to try to save the curbs. Actually had a couple of job shadowers come with me on this one, and I was pretty impressed by their abilities to perceive. We all marked the curbs. We identified which percentages we would have them come out, and a couple of high school sophomores came up with the same answer I did, so that was kind of cool. Anyway, when we looked at this, we found we were about 50% of curbs needed to come out. So again, back to that, it's less efficient to leave in some curbs and try to keep them than it is to just tear it out, because contractor can just kind of go in a lot quicker fashion in that way. There is some storm sewer in this area, not complete, so we're kind of filling in the gaps and adding leads to each of the properties here. So this is a pretty long project. This is almost half a mile, but with all the storm sewers and leads in here, you're talking about a $950,000 expense. Now, we are surveying from Greenwood going north to do in 2027. That will be a water project, but for this section from Mason Run to Greenwood, it'll just be street and storm sewer. Okay. Project number 4. This is another, I'll say, synergistic project to some degree. We picked this one. This block anyway that's in the photo because we're working on the loop trail extension. We're going to come up with a better name for it, but the extension of the loop trail from 5th and Rosler all the way through the Bechtrom Foods property up to Front Street. But we're crossing Adams, and I don't think we want to have the new trail crossing a road that looks like this. So we did move this up a year. This probably would have waited another year or two, but we are reconstructing both the block between 3rd and 4th, which is currently concrete, and the block between 3rd and Front, which is asphalt. We're going to do both of those in concrete as well. And we do have water main to replace on both of these. A little bit of storm sewer. We have some at the corners. Between the two blocks, it'll be a $360,000 expense. And as you can see, the last resurfacing on these in reconstruction was in the 1960s. So we're not redoing new roads here. Right. All right. Project number 5, I mentioned there was one where the tail's wagging the dog, if you will. This is the tail wagging the dog in that Barry has had a ton of main breaks on this section. This is East Lorraine Street between Macomb and Hollywood. This is the worst part of the road. Most of the road is in serviceable condition, although it is 40 years old. But we can't wait any longer on the water main replacement. I mean, we've replaced the same person's drive approach at least 4 times, twice this year. So that gives you an idea of just how bad that is. So this is one where we're going to move up the street to meet the most appropriate timeline. But this is another instance where we have no storm sewer on the entire block. So for 800 feet, we need to install a storm run and some taps. But this is one where we can get away with just doing a milling and resurfacing and not having to take any of the curbs out. So cost on this one's a little less, $350,000. Project number 6 is our Fredericks Drive, and 6 and 7 are both what I'd call big patch projects. Fredericks looks a lot like this, from Donnelly all the way to Telegraph. You've got pieces where it's just brutally bad, and then you've got some good panels in between. So we're going to be doing about 1/3 of the panels here in that stretch, but it's going to resemble a full reconstruction when it's done, in that it's going to be in pretty good shape. So it was constructed in the 80s and really hasn't had anything done since. So it's in pretty good shape other than fixing those patches. And we're going to do a short section of Crest Lane while we're at it as well. I mentioned some spot patches. We're trying to go through our inventory and say, where can we do $20,000 to $50,000 worth of work and make the rest of that street in really good shape for the next 10 to 20 years? So we picked a number of locations. We did this last year. We think it worked out really well. We're going to do another run of these. So we've got 6 locations. The largest of those is in view here, and that's the block of Arbor between Maywood and Cantrick School. So $200,000 allocated for that. Okay, streets number 8 is one that we're kind of stuck in a holding pattern on to some degree, but we had to deal with it now. I think I've mentioned in past years, we're looking at a comprehensive storm sewer project in what's affectionately known as the W Street neighborhood, which I think everyone knows was built in the 50s. And Eaton Tile is drastically undersized. It is a county drain, and we're going through the process right now of looking at options. With the Spicer Group is assisting us with that. We're getting close to having the final report in, but we're at least 2 to 3 years away from construction of that large diameter tile and whatever system we put into place. And that'll be an expensive project done through the Drain Commissioner's office. However, Wolverine Avenue is a complete mess. The north block looks like this. It's in very poor condition. We can't allow this to continue too much longer. So we have funded what I'm calling a temporary resurfacing. There may be elements that are quasi-permanent. The very north end, we may have to put down a concrete pavement for 100 to 150 feet just because it's gotten so bad. But we're looking at doing no curbs, no drive approaches, 1.5 inch mill and fill, and just hold it in place for hopefully between 5 and however many years we can get that project done. So we don't generally like to spend good money after bad, but we can't wait any longer. So that's what that is. Streets number 9 is something the council sort of already committed to because we were asked to from MDOT. We've been partnering with them as they've been upgrading their traffic signals along their trunk lines to meet the Telegraph Road corridor study or corridor plan, which calls for a higher aesthetic standard. And we're getting close to having all the telegraph signals done with this. So they're upgrading the intersection. You've already seen these at South Custer and Telegraph and at 7th and Telegraph. And then we did the work ourselves as part of the Lazy Boy project to do the same thing at Holiday and Telegraph. So they're looking at Lorraine and Telegraph this year and M125 Monroe Street and Noble. Elm Monroe also has the mast arm treatment on it. So they've asked us to pay the upgrade costs. Originally, a few years ago, pre-COVID inflation, they were looking at about $80,000 per intersection. Now we're about double that. Wow. So I think the quote was $286,000. I've requested $300 here to cover the time frame between now and when they actually get ready to do it. So that's consistent. We like it. We love the look. It's safer. They're on the far side of the intersection. We don't have to worry about signal knockdowns. These poles are pretty robust. So anyway. And project number 10 is one that I've kind of had in the back of my mind for quite a while here. Actually, we started looking at this part of this project close to 20 years ago, and that is a reconstruction of Greenwood, which is starting to get in poor enough condition that we need to look at it. But more importantly, I'll say a reimagining of this corridor. Greenwood Avenue was designed, if you can believe it, back in the 50s. The reason it's 36 feet wide is actually identified as part of a potential I-75 business route. When they built the expressway, they were looking to connect a business loop there. And this was one of the streets that they looked at. It was built overly wide. It dead ends west of Hollywood. It dead ends east of Michigan into the Greenwood townhomes. But it is something that could very easily be extended to the east for future housing development. And so we wanted to take a look at this. Going west, the city actually owns the property all the way to Macomb Street. It could be extended to provide a better route into that neighborhood. Right now, everyone uses Orchard, Oakwood, and Maywood, but they're quite a ways apart. We could also narrow this road up. So when it comes time to reconstruct it, 36 feet is too wide. There's no homes that front just Greenwood. They front all the north-south streets. You could probably get away with 28-foot corridor here, using the rest of that for a non-motorized pathway along the drain. So we would like to request $100,000 in funding for the design of not only the extension to Macomb Street, but to reinvent this corridor and then probably do the work in 2027. So I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah.
It's our number 10 priority only because it's not a construction this year, but I'm really excited about this one. Okay, on to infrastructure. I'll keep it shorter on the infrastructure ones. Our number one was our sidewalk replacement program. This is pretty routine. You know what we do on this one. I will say our complaints are getting higher and higher every year, and some of that is because with the passage of the streets and trails millage, the city's now paying all the costs. We used to assess the general deterioration of the property owner. So it sort of turns into a situation where before, when the residents were paying, they were arguing that it wasn't an inch. Now that the city's paying, they're arguing the other way. So we're actually seeing the cost go up, and that's good because it means we're identifying more hazards. But to get just the program area done is about 150, and we're dealing with 100 to 150 just in complaints. So we've upped that cost from $250,000 to $300,000 this year. And this year's target area would be back north of the river and east of Maple. So go on to the next one. This is a project, infrastructure number 2, that kind of came up with the County Road Commission telling me they had a number of bridge projects planned for 2027. And if I had any bridge projects, we might want to look at bundling them with the Road Commission. So we actually moved this one up a couple of years in the schedule for 2 reasons. One is that we think we can do better if we bundle those with the Road Commission, and it's a federally eligible roadway. And 2, we're looking at, you saw that big number of $34 million in the 2028-29 fiscal year. That includes the West Elm Underpass year. So we're hoping that it gets built in 2028. So we're trying to get this Rosler Street deck resurfaced in 2027 because we know there'll be a lot of traffic detoured onto this. So we're hoping we can get it done in time. There may be some flexibility in the 2009 bridge millage that could offset some of the costs here. And we would be borrowing the 2028 federal aid dollars to move them up to 27 to get this project done. And the Road Commission says we can swap funds with them. So we'll take their $2028 and or $2027, we'll pay it back in 2028. So that's that project. Number 3 is going to be kind of a multi-use for both DPS to use as an arrow board, but also for festivals, where we can say, festival, road closed tomorrow at whatever time. We saw the benefit to this during the US 24 Mason Run culvert replacement of being able to advertise a week in advance and say this will be closed on this date. So we've got enough money in here for 2 changeable message signs and then 1 light tower with a generator, and that would be something we would use for festivals. And if we have night work that we need to do, DPS or any other entities that would need to use that. So we had funded in here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
This did not get funded.
I thought I had taken it out. That's my
We
bad.
requested funding to replace the parking lot at Sawyer House, but I didn't quite make the list. Number 5 is the city employee parking lot fencing. This was intended to be funded with the employee parking lot that was done in 2024. The costs for that were above what we had funded in order to get both the fencing and the columns in here. So our zoning ordinance requires us to put perimeter screening. The example on the upper photo is what the county parking lot at the northwest corner of First and Macomb looks like. We'd be looking at something similar for the employee lot. Photo on the bottom shows what the employee lot frontage looks like along First Street. So it would be on the First, Scott, and Second Street perimeters is where the fencing would go. And that's a $70,000 expense, and it's already designed 364 feet of fencing and 21 brick columns. Infrastructure number 6, we're continuing the initiative started in 2013 to pave portions of the DPS parking lot. That site was completely unpaved 12 years ago. Dragging a lot of mud through it, a lot of house cleaning things. We've got the west side, which is mostly the public-facing side, already done. We would like to go another $80,000 worth to come around the south end of the building. We still do get citizen traffic through there during leaf bag season, and we have dumpster collection, things like that. So we'd like to slowly continue to get the site paved, and so we've just got another iteration of that. Then we get to our equipment. We had 2 loaders, they're both 2003 loaders, and we replaced one this year, and this will be the second replacement of our loader. So $290,000, and that will be funded through our equipment and motor pool fund, which basically charges the major and local street funds or refuse fund. When work is done, we bill an hourly rate to those funds, but the equipment and motor pool fund actually owns these. We need a trailer. That's another one, $35,000 expense. We have some smaller tractors, skid loaders, things like that we are starting to have to go across town that we could use a flat deck trailer for. And speaking of trailers, we had a part assembled trailer from 1995 that hauls our barricades around. We've got some inventive guys that can do a lot of things, but a 30-year-old trailer is a 30-year-old trailer. And you can see that thing stuffed to the gills. With the festivals we're starting to have in the broader service area, we could use two units so that we can keep them both loaded up, and it would save us a ton of time during events if we can have them both loaded up and haul them both to the site at the same time. So we've got 2 of those trailers. And we've got a couple of furnaces. Most of the bays are heated with some large overhead units, but we do have a couple of, I don't want to call them office areas, but they kind of are. Our forestry department has an individual furnace, as does our sign shop, which is on the 2nd floor. And those are walled enclosed spaces. Those are both 20-year-old furnaces, so they're getting close to their last legs. So we've got $25,000 we think will replace both of those. Long-range projects, I won't bore you with all of what we've got there. There's some stats for what we're showing in our future projects list. Streets are streets. We're just, we keep changing the order every year. Again, looking at the utility needs, and what's first on next year's list may not appear on next year's list. But we're looking at over $20 million over 5 years, so more than $4 million a year, and that's keeping up with what we get in from the major local street funds and our street millage. And we think we are in pretty good shape to start keeping up. We're starting to slowly get past the backlog that we had prior to the street millage, so we feel we're in pretty good shape. And so we're just continuing to chug along there. On the other infrastructure, our biggest project that we are showing that we don't know exactly what it's going to cost. We think it's a $30 million project, but that's a big enchilada there. So we're planning to construct that in 2028, and that will, again, provided we can stay on time with the CSX Railroad, who is kind of the major impediment here in signing off on the concepts. And then we have a number of other routine things. The sidewalk program continues on there, fleet purchases. One project that didn't make the funding cut this year is alleys, and I know we plan a discussion with council on the special assessment process on doing alleys, because those are kind of a localized benefit. But we have shown some funding for alleys in there as well. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? Probably, but I don't know if there's anything important enough that you need to hear about it tonight. So happy to answer any questions that you have when we get to that point.
We are to that point. So
you want me to stay here?
So if there's any questions from any members of the CPC on anything tonight, yes, Joel.
Yes, I have one question. The Monroe Street Bridge, the sidewalks on that are looking pretty rough. What is the future plans?
Well, you probably have to ask MDOT on that one, but that's a conversation that we're planning on having with MDOT, because they're with the US 24 resurfacing project in 2026. They're looking at filling in some sidewalk gaps and things like that. So we're due to have a conversation about non-motorized facilities on their trunk lines, and I'm planning to bring that up at that time, because you are absolutely correct, and that is their responsibility. We have a maintenance contract with them that we can patch, but it's difficult to patch because it's, the distress is pretty shallow, but you cold patch it and the rocks just kind of fall away, and it's not even if you do cold patch it. So it's a pretty comprehensive repair they're going to need there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good question though. I'm glad you brought that up.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone for being here tonight. Just one other detail, if there are no other questions. I just wanted to run through really quick. Next steps. So the next step for the Citizens Planning Commission is at your meeting on January 12th. There will be a public hearing on the CIP program, budget, and a recommendation to council. So that will be the meeting where you'll actually deliberate and decide what ultimately you are submitting to City Council for their consideration. And then from there on January 20th, it will be introduced at City Council, and there will be a scheduling of a public hearing for their second meeting in February, which is February 17th. And there will be a public hearing at that meeting, and then formally the adoption of the 26-27 CIP budget. So we also have the February 2nd City Council meeting if needed, if there's any items that are requiring additional deliberation, having that meeting available just in case. But that is your 2026-2027 CIP in a nutshell.
Thank you.
I did have one question. Yeah, I did have one question. I was wondering if you're able to name any specific properties. It was mentioned earlier that there's some strategic property acquisition being looked at, particularly on Telegraph. I was curious if there's any specifics you can give.
Yeah, nothing in particular right now on Telegraph. We've actually seen an uptick in a lot of just the kind of organic development opportunities that are starting to occur along there. We've had some prospective meetings with developers at this point in time, but nothing else remaining on Telegraph. I think some of our areas could be within the Orchard Greenway Trail and some of those other spaces too. So looking kind of beyond individual properties, but kind of looking holistically at projects as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, no other questions. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Then I guess we'll move to commissioner action, Ms. Van Sacker.
Yes. So just to bring these two items up again, case SU 25-008 and SPL 25-018, both pertaining to 1018 East 2nd Street. These are special use requests for shelters overnight at these locations, and we had discussed in detail and at length during the last meeting, but unfortunately, given Commissioner White's affiliation with the applicant, she had to abstain from that vote, and we did not have 4 affirmative votes to move these two items through the process. So just bringing these up for Planning Commission consideration again here this evening. We do have 4 members that I don't imagine have a reason to abstain on this regard. Obviously 5 members total, but just bringing these to your attention once again this evening. If there are any other questions on any of the specifics pertaining to these, I'm happy to discuss and dive into those.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Van Sacker on those projects? Okay, then I would need a motion for case SU 25-008 on 1018 East 2nd Street.
I'll make a motion to approve the special use of shelters overnight at 1018 East 2nd Street, conditional upon the applicant achieving compliance with standards 4, 8, 9, 10, 12, and 14 of section 3.58.b as determined by review of city administrative staff.
I have a motion by Commissioner Duhamel. Do I have a second? I have a second by Commissioner Williamson. Roll call, please.
Yes. McDonough.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Duhamel.
Yes.
White. Chairman Schwartz.
The motion passes. And finally, on 55613, case SPL 25-018, 1018 East 2nd Street. We have a motion.
Yes, I'll make the motion to conditionally approve the site plan for the special use shelters overnight at 1018 East 2nd Street, condition on the applicant passing your certificate of occupancy inspection for building and fire code standards.
I have a motion by Commissioner Duhamel. Do I have a second? Again, second by Commissioner Williamson. Roll call, please.
Yes. McDonough.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Duhamel.
Yes.
White.
Abstain. Chairman Schwartz.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you. Staff comments.
I've talked too much.
I'm gonna have to get some green tea and some honey or something for the vocal cords. But just really quick for the next meeting, obviously we talked about CIP next steps. We'll also be bringing some renderings of Altrusa Park, and I know a couple of the members of the Planning Commission have been actively working on that project, so we'll be able to look at that and kind of introduce you to the proposed concept for that. We'll approve the meeting schedule for 2026. And then also we may have a potential land division. We've been having some conversations with a property owner on South Custer about a potential land division and combination for his parcel. So a couple of those things that may be coming on the horizon. And just lastly, just wishing everyone a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year, since this is our last meeting for the year.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment at this time? Any public comments? Any public comments? Okay. Commissioner comments. Commissioner McDonough?
Sure. Just want to thank everybody across the entire city for working on such a difficult task and bringing all these things together in such an efficient manner. It's always a pleasure to just see some of the background and what's going on and how hard everybody's working. And it's a pleasure to see all that. And so thank you for everybody and their comments and their participation. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Williamson?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Jack said. Just thank you for all your hard work in presenting this to us tonight. We're always happy to see some improvements, some things getting done, make sure our water is safe to drink. That's always good. So appreciate all that. And then, yes, have a happy holidays.
Commissioner White? Any comments? Yes.
Yes, I would like to just note the presentation for the capital improvements program. It's come a long ways, and it's nice to see such a beautiful presentation. I remember working on it in the early 90s, and it was way more difficult than this, so it really looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Duhamel?
Yes, just again, thanks for all city staff and everybody who was involved working on the presentation. And, it is just encouraging to see all the plans we have for improvement and, upgrades and, raising young kids. It's great to look forward to, what they might be able to enjoy before too long. And, it tends to be the sort of thing we all just kind of live in the city and take a lot of the things that are actually there for granted, but it requires all that hard work. And so we appreciate all the hard work that is done to allow us to live in a pleasant city like this. So thanks. And then, happy holidays. I hope everybody enjoys their time with family. And thank you again for your hard work.
Thank you. And finally, again, Mr. Leroy, Mr. Lewis, thank you for you and your staff. Barry, one of these times I might say no to something, but I don't know what, because raw sewage, pipelines from 1922, Lord, it's amazing. But you do a wonderful job keeping the city water clean. And Mr. Lewis, thanks for the streets and obviously Waterloo. You've heard that every year, we're one step closer, So I know it's a major project. So thank you for everybody's hard work, all the city members. And other than that, I have no other comments. So I need a motion for adjournment. I have a motion by Commissioner Duhamel and a second by Commissioner White. Roll call, please.
Yes. McDonough?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Duhamel?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Chairman Schwartz?
Adjourned.